All right, we made the Rohan burrowing toad. First of all, he is an ectotherm, which means he relies on his environment to keep him warm instead of his own metabolic heat, which is why he burrows to stay warm in the winter. His integument, which is that outermost layer of the skin, he's an amphibian, so it's really thin, it's moist, and it's permeable. This allows for cutaneous absorption, which is taking that gas and moisture from the soil once he's burrowed and absorbing it that way. It's great in the steppe environment because there's a constant source since it's a humid microenvironment. Next, his cryptic coloration keeps him camouflaged and hidden on top of that steppe environment when he is up there. And then finally, his structural adaptation of his short and stubby front legs, but his spade-like back legs. And then here we have depicted a pectoral and pelvic girdle, whereas all his musculature is surrounding. That allows for forceful excavation, so he's not very fast, but he can burrow very well.
For this creature, the main behaviors are ambush predation and nocturnal hunting activity. And so, with the ambush predation, that allows the toad to conserve energy and it makes it easier for the toad to retreat into the burrow if necessary. Although there is a risk of a potentially inconsistent food intake. And then with nocturnal hunting activity, this reduces exposure to the toad's own predators, as well as providing some sun protection. However, there will be some limited visibility for the toad and potentially less variety in prey.
Okay, for our the predation and competition section, our little creature, the toad, he or she will prey on insects and other creatures using ambush from its burrow. Other creatures could include little worms or little small mammals like mice. It will be preyed on by birds and snakes, obviously carnivores of those creatures. It will use camouflage, burrowing, and nocturnal behavior to reduce predation risks. As you can see in the lovely picture, there's a little burrow that it hides in. Some competition factors, it will compete with small predators for food resources, and it will also compete with other burrowing animals for shelter and safe places to live and to find food.
So our toad friend lives in Rohan, and that is a grassland steppe area for in a habitat. This means that it's going to be a relatively flat area with low diversity in plants. So it's going to be mainly like tall grass and plants that don't need a lot of water to survive. For climate, it's going to be on the extremes. In the summers, it's going to be hot, but then in the winters, it's going to be cold. And there's not going to be a lot of rainfall, so it's going to be low humidity. And most of the time, like in this case as well, the steps are going to be surrounded by mountains, so there's just not going to be a lot of water coming in and out. And there's going to be enough water that it's not going to be considered a desert, but not more than enough to consider it something closer to the savannah. And with the steppes area, they typically have more rocks, and between like the rocks and the grass on the ground, this is going to provide plenty of space for a toad friend to burrow and find a safe place to live and thrive.
Our Rowan burrowing toad is a secondary consumer in the food web. At the base, we have grasses and flowers which produce and they capture energy from the sun. And primary consumers, like insects, like grasshoppers, and crickets, and beetles, feed on these plants. Our toad ambushes these insects at night, and they pass the energy up the chain. The toad is prey for tertiary consumers like hawks or owls or snakes. When an organism dies, decomposers like fungi and bacteria return nutrients to the soil, which feeds the grasses again. So every living thing works together, and then the process starts again. Thank you.
The ecological role and niche of the Rohan burrowing toad. Its trophic level, it's a primary slash secondary consumer because its diet of small rodents, insects, and other invertebrates. And because of this, its role, it helps to regulate the populations of these animals. It's an ambush predator from its burrow, helps to control the population so then the insects don't otherwise overgraze these perennial grasses that are found very commonly all throughout the steppes of Rohan. It also has a large impact on the ecosystem. Its burrowing activity helps to aerate the soil, like this picture that's shown over here with these different holes in the soil. These abandoned burrows can later become homes for smaller insects or mammals, which help to increase local biodiversity. The heck? It's okay, I stopped the recording. Okay, that should be good.